Okay, so the idea was to translate our complex processes in the QC lab into technical models to orchestrate the workflows required for our lab technicians. So the idea was to translate it into different SiLA services so that we can execute them in a way that we wanted to be planned.
And so we looked at how are we going to do that, and we ended up with 3 pillars. The first one is the workflow pillar, where we are using BPMN as an orchestration layer. Secondly, we wrap all of the components in the complex workflow into SiLA services so we can talk to them. And third, we document the entire workflow using animal documents, which we then generate out of the instruments. And so we've got the following scenario. We have an ERP system. In our case, it's an SAP QM, where we have a SiLA service wrapped around, and we can query that for work that is scheduled for a given sample. Then we have a microplate reader, which can execute that work, and so we have a service that lets us talk to the plate reader. The plate reader service is able to generate an animal document that comes back to the orchestration tier, and we can then send that to a result deposit service, which will push it on to a visualization component that loads it into the animal viewer. And we've got a layer on top that does the orchestration that is Python based. And yeah, so let's take a look how it works. So here's how this works. We've implemented a number of services. Let's start with the first. This is the service that represents the LIMS. The LIMS knows which tasks to perform on a given sample, and we can ask it with a sample ID, which methods to run on that sample. In our case, it's a microplate, because we have a microplate reader, and our microplate reader service is here. That's a TCAN reader that we've written in using the TCAN C# SiLA SDK, and it returns an animal document with the plate reader results. And then we have an animal viewer integration service, which serves as the facility to deposit the results to a target system and then also to do data visualization. And we have gone ahead and deployed these in the cloud. So what we see here is the 3 services that are running. We can ignore the fact that they are running, but so they are just here. And what we can do next is we can connect to them using our SiLA Universal Client, which you can download for free from SiLA. And so we can connect to those 3 services. And since the services are SiLA based, they are self-describing. So just by looking at the service through the client, I can see the type of capabilities they offer. So for example, I can ask my SAP LIMS for the work list for a given sample. So I can see here, there is a work list service, and it lets me get the tasks for a given plate. So now I can put in a plate ID, let's say plate 1, 2, 3, and execute that command. And it tells me in its response that I'm supposed to do an absorbance read on certain microplate wells. And so this is what our LIMS service allows us to do. And we can now take a look at the plate reader. The plate reader also has a number of capabilities, for example, to perform a microplate read. And we can pass in the method name, in our case, absorbance read, and the plate ID and the wells that we want to read. And the animal viewer has a result deposit service where we can push the outcome of a certain measurement. So if I don't want to push it directly to the LIMS, but I want to push it onto someone's screen, it's quite convenient to simply drop in the viewer in this place. And so as we've seen, we can just use the universal client to run this, but we can also orchestrate that, which is obviously a lot more fun. And for that, we've used SiLA Python to write a lightweight script to perform the orchestration. So you can see it fits on a single page. What we do here is we connect to the 3 SiLA services, which we are running on this machine in the cloud. And so we're connecting to the LIMS system, we're connecting to the plate reader, and we're connecting to the result deposit service, which is the viewer. And then the execution happens. So we scan the barcode, which just returns a simulated plate ID. And then we ask our LIMS to get the tasks for a given microplate identified by that plate ID. And that gives us the method and the wells that we need to run this on. And then we can ask the plate reader to perform the read on the plate, where we say, here's the method. We want it run on this plate ID, and these are the wells. And then obviously that takes a while. So we wait for the read to complete. We can monitor the progress. And in the end, we get the animal document back from the read, which we can then hand over to the animal viewer and then open the web browser in a new tab to show this. And so when we run this, this is what happens. The services get orchestrated, and all you see is in the end, you see, the viewer pops up. It's done a read on a given plate. Here is the plate, and here is the readout. So we have all of the values for the different positions on the plate. And this is the outcome of the second working group that is putting together LIMS integration in the cloud, orchestration, and instrument integration at the bioSASH hackathon.